Hi, Carol Stimmel here at the Engerati studio at European Utility Week 2015, and I'm here with Jesper Daugaard, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at Kamstrup. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you're welcome. And first of all, let's start with kind of a general understanding of Kamstrup and what you're doing in the smart energy environment.
Yeah. So Kamstrup is an innovation leader in smart metering. We are active in 60 countries all over the world, 1,000 employees that are focused in developing smart metering systems, so meters, infrastructure, software and analytics hosting as well. So that's our core. We have approximately 1/4 of our employees focusing on R&D, bringing new solutions to the market. So that's very short what Kamstrup is.
But that's, it's interesting. I'm glad you sort of broke down a little bit about what your employees are doing. So first of all, you have an end-to-end approach to smart metering. You're not just putting out the meters, you're doing everything right back to the home.
We both have a Kamstrup end-to-end, but we're also partnering up with other system integrators. I mean, it basically depends on what the client is asking for.
Okay. So you're doing, first of all, I'm going to imagine that you're very oriented towards standards then, if you're able to integrate with other partners, which is great. So standards, integration, a lot of research and development, it sounds like. So you're working in you said 25% of your employees are in research?
More than 25% are in research and development.
That's a big number. That's,
yeah,
I mean, that's the kind of number you hear from companies like Google and Apple, that sort of. So how does a meter company get into that?
To understand Kamstrup, I mean, everybody's talking about smart meters now. Back in 1991, Kamstrup decided that mechanical meters, stupid meters, was not the future. Mm-hmm. So we took that decision very early. And from that on, we're only producing smart meters. Then you can say, or we only produce static meters. So then back in 2002, we start to work with radio protocols to make sure that the meter could communicate. And we had our first smart metering roll-up in Greenland in 2005.
Wow. That was definitely among one of the earliest.
It is, yeah. It is. We have, you can say, we are not focusing on the profit next quarter. We're more focused on what is the right solution for the market on the long term, and then we go dedicated for that.
Right. Well, I'm quite interested in the research and development piece because as an industry worldwide, this energy from the utility perspective has been chronically underinvested in. And the investment is just now kind of kicking back up in full to take advantage of the digital grid, the two-way grid. I'm imagining with that kind of an emphasis on innovation, you've been looking at what can we do with smart meter data and other forms of data for quite a long time.
Yeah, we have. And we've also tried to make sure that we actually stay very close to our customers and our customers' challenges. So I think if you see what's going on at this conference here, everybody is talking about change. Everybody is talking about there's environmental change, there's technology change. And if you look at the utility, which you can say used to think 20, 30 years ahead, they have to cope with a lot of changes at the same time. And if you look at us as suppliers to that customer base or that industry, we have also been, you can say, thinking about long payback time for the solution that we've been made. So I think that's one of the challenges we have to take upon us as smart metering innovators, that we have to come up with a solution that's much more flexible.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a solution that has shorter payback time. And one of the things that we have done is actually that the smart meters we produce has upgradable firmware.
Right.
So we had, I remember a case in the Nordic where we have just delivered the last meter. Then I think it was about 2 months later, customer called and say, well, I have this issue. And we could have gone back and say, well, sorry, dear customer, that's not in your specs.
Right.
You haven't realized that need when you purchase the whole thing. And then they would have to upgrade the entire smart grid once again, which is a huge investment for the utility.
Which would have been sort of the old way of thinking.
Yes. What we did was we say, well, okay, can you help us understand the problem? So we spent around 2 to 3 weeks really understand the problem and trying to see if we could actually, with the software, build in that functionality. And then we did a remote upgrade of the entire system. Now, I would be lying if we say all meters was remotely operated.
Yeah.
So there was, I mean, something between 1% to 2% that we had to, you can say, address manually. But basically most of the meters was then, you can say, the new functionality was included. And I think these are the types of examples that we have to, you can say, be excellent in doing, that we provide the utility sector with a flexible, future-proof solution.
Okay, well, Jesper, I've heard you speak before, and I've heard this come up a few times, and you just hit it again, which is this idea of return on investment.
Yes.
These are expensive technology deployments. You just described a case where you were able to do an over-the-air update with a pretty high degree of success, saving a lot of money, having to prevent another rollout, or not even addressing the problem. But I think return on investment in this digital grid is much more about technology solutions. I think it's about the kind of services and the way that we now create relationships with the electricity consumers. What are you doing about that? How are you seeing that problem?
Well, when it's about creating relationship with the consumer, the first thing you have to do as a utility is to establish an element of trust. And you can say you do that by actually making sure that there's transparency, that the consumers see, why do I get the bill I get? Mm-hmm. And from the utility point of view, that you can actually secure that the consumer is not trying to cheat, trying to consume energy without paying for it. So once you have established that element of trust, you can start to add new services. And what we've done there is that we have developed a small app. And the app itself is actually very simple. It gives you your consumption. You can actually decide as a consumer the granularity of how much you want to see. You can compare to last day or last week to say, am I thumbs up using less energy or am I using more? And what we want to do is we want to put the consumer in the driver's seat, that they can actually make intelligent choices about saving energy and having comfort. And we don't believe that the majority of people will actually take cold showers and live in the dark. We believe that the modern family wants to consume energy, but we believe there's a lot of waste at the consumer side that they're not aware of. Mm-hmm. And once they're aware of this, they make intelligent choices. Just like you and me, when we drive on the highway, we know when we hit the metal to the floor, it consumes more gas or diesel, right? But it's our decision, when do we go slow and when do we go fast?
Right. Well, Jesper, we just have a few minutes left, and there were so many topics I wanted to talk to you about, but I want to hear from you as a longtime player in the smart meter field, obviously thinking a lot about what can we do with the data. You've seen things go right and things go wrong, because basically you've been now for the whole duration
we have.
Of this particular market. So I want to know from your vision, where are we going with this thing? What is our next level of innovation? What is really our next suite of challenges now that we are starting to deploy these things in full force?
I mean, there's the direction that people are talking about now, and where we're very active. We see that, you can say, we actually, as a supplier, we can start to promise performance. So we don't have to talk about technology, we can promise performance, we can start to harvest benefit, we can start to reduce waste in the grid. So that's where we are right now. Now, where will we take us? I think in terms of engaging with the consumer, there's still a lot of things to be done. In terms of securing that we have that trust level, there's also a very important element of security that we have to keep in mind, and that's maybe sometimes a forgotten topic. We just saw a couple of weeks ago that IS have tried to hack an American utility, and unfortunately they were not very good at what they are doing. But we have to understand that the utility infrastructure is also a military target, and we have to make sure that we have security in the way we build things. And you can say that's something we've been thinking of at a long time, and we've been in, you can say, the same level of security that you have in our bank systems and other systems. We make sure that all the data from the consumer to the utility are encrypted. So it's, you can say, it's very, very, very difficult to actually decode that data. And if you try to do that, you'll end up with a consumption figure without actually linked to personal data.
Right, well, so this is a very interesting question, and I do wish we could dig deeper, but when I hear you compare smart meter data to financial banking data, it really does change the conversation dramatically. When we have other conversations happening about opening up data, the greater societal good related to smart meter data, there are real questions we have to talk about. And when you characterize the grid from the critical infrastructure perspective, it makes it more difficult.
You can say the consumption in my house, at home, my family, it's kind of my data. So I mean, if that should be somewhere in the cloud, I want to be confident that these data are protected and that these data does not fall in the wrong hands. So therefore, I mean, security is not something we talk about an awful lot about. It has to be there, and we have to be, you can say, not taking any compromises just because we have an innovative idea. Or
right, we could back off, but we have to be there from the beginning.
Exactly.
It has to be built in.
It has to be built in.
Okay. Well,
in the design.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me for this short chat today. I hope we get to speak a lot more and keep track of what's happening.
I already look forward to next year.
Okay, great. Carol Stimmel in the Engerati studio with Jesper Daugaard from Kamstrup, European Utility Week 2015. Thank you.